Yeah!
The shout now. Well done, Bobby Charlton. Well done, Manchester United.
It's a Sheringham, and Solskjaer has won it! Bobby Charlton saved it! United again! Ready! A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie!
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Ashwin.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Mark. Ashwin, you're to the back of the queue after that shit. Like, you got to be in. Just punch.
That's it, yeah. He's not used to being up the queue, but look, four of us are here for the pre-season preview. It's a pretty weird pre-season, and this show's a bit delayed because we've been waiting for a couple of transfers to talk about, but unfortunately they've not happened yet, so we couldn't leave it any longer. We do at least have one big player in to talk about, and we're still expecting at least one more, right, guys?
Two more.
I hope so. Yeah.
Sancho go.
Yeah. Look, let's see. But look, normally in pre-season we're talking about transfers, we're talking about friendlies, but we don't have any of that this year. We're starting a week later than everybody else, and then I guess a lot of our pre-season is these kind of international matches. I think we do have one friendly against Aston Villa lined up this weekend. Recording this on Wednesday night. But look, let's talk straight on the transfer stuff, because I know that's what everybody's most interested in. So there has been the one big news of Donny van de Beek coming in from Ajax. I actually thought at the first, I wasn't sure that this was really the position we really needed to go for. But I know, Ashwin, you thought this was really a top transfer we needed to make happen, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good transfer. We saw at the end of the season that Ole at least did not trust anybody to come in to bring goals, change matches when we needed that to happen. So I think Van de Beek does that. He actually even said it today. We need goals in the squad. He brings that. I think he's a different type of player. He's more of I think the way he kind of contributes goals and assists is his movement. He's like everybody used to talk about Lingard's movement. Like, imagine Lingard but with end product. That would be, I think, kind of what the goal is here with this transfer. He definitely provides competition in a couple of spots, or at least backup to Bruno and Pogba, because he can play in central midfield. And I guess potentially we could even see like a super attacking lineup where, those three play together. So I think it was a really good transfer. I think it was good business. I think the initial fee is actually under £35 million, and there's $5 million in some add-ons, performance related. But that's a good signing. I think if this is a signing, I feel like if Madrid made the reaction to it be, why isn't United making signings like this? Why don't we add to our squad? I think he adds dimensions and qualities to the squad that we need.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing, that most of us feel that our first 11 was decent, but then when players got injured, the players that were coming in were not up to scratch at all. And, he definitely provides brilliant backup for Pogba, Bruno. I mean, he can play 8, he can play 10. He's a versatile kind of midfielder. He is more on the attacking side for sure. I think the big benefit will be that we'll see a lot less of Pereira and Lingard, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of them leaves pretty soon. I do worry as well, though. Like, for me, I really like Fred and McTominay, and I wonder what it'll do to their kind of minutes. But maybe it's not kind of threatening the same kind of position over there. What do you feel about that, Jamie? Do you think it's going to cause a trouble in those kind of players who've been there already? Because you already talked about in past podcasts about how those were the players, Fred and McTominay in particular, who were kind of unlucky post-lockdown not to play that much, even though they'd done pretty well earlier in the season.
No, I think if anything, he is going to be much further forward, as kind of Ashwin's alluded to, where he's going to be interchangeable with Bruno and Pogba more than further back from the pitch. I mean, I've only watched them in the Champions League. But whenever I've watched him, I just can't help but be impressed. I think he presses very well from the front. He breaks the lines. He goes into the box and supports the attacks. I've also kind of dug out a couple of things, and one of them was he scored goals for Ajax in the Champions League against Spurs, Real Madrid and Juve, all away from home, and a couple of them at home as well. So he's a big game player. He brings a lot in the attacking sense. But regarding McTominay and Fred, I think it was more they just weren't being played, and it was Matic was being played instead of them. I can't see Van de Beek being played just in front of the back four or as the shielder, if you like. I can only see him being played further up the pitch. So I don't think he's going to take minutes away from McTominay and Fred, per se. I think it's going to be more giving Bruno a rest or going ultra attacking, as we've said. And also, as you said, it's less for Pereira, it's less for Lingard, it's more quality as well, because that's what we've struggled with when Bruno's needed a rest, or earlier in the season when there was just nobody else there to fill the gap. We were having to play Pereira and Lingard, and they're just not up to it. So I just think it's great for the strength and depth of the squad. It's great in the sense that he's just a very good player from what I've seen and what I've read. And I don't know if you've seen the faces he pulls when he scores. I think we've got somebody to rival Phil Jones.
All right, yeah, no, not seen that. I look forward to that. But yeah, one of the big things as well was I think this continues kind of the thing about Ole looking for the right characters and, trying to get like inside information from people. Because, we'd seen before, like we'd brought in Harry Maguire, who'd worked before with Mike Phelan. We'd had Ryan Giggs giving like inside information on Daniel James. Even somebody like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Gary Neville had talked about how Ole had spoken to him, and he knew like Ray Lewington who was like assistant coach at Crystal Palace from like England days, and again it was very important for Ole to get information about his character. And yeah, this time Edwin van der Sar, old United legend, is the one over there who's helped us seal this deal. And definitely as well has like given the seal of approval that the guy's ready for the step up to Man United and to fit in over there. And I think that's a constant theme in the players we're bringing in now. And that was a big problem under people like Jose and even Van Gaal, who were not really thinking about that kind of the character of people to come in and play for Man United, and we're just looking for players and names and who didn't always fit in, and even big names that we know several failed and have been and gone by now. And that's the really positive side of it for me. And as you say, look, the guy's obviously a damn good player. My only thing, like I said, was it wasn't when I looked at who I really want, which areas I wanted to improve with the squad, that kind of area wasn't top of my list, just because we had already bought in Bruno. Pogba looks like he's staying. But yeah, look, you're not going to complain about having squad depth. I mean, for me personally, and yeah, I'll be interested in your guys' opinions of if we're still looking to add to the squad, which positions would be like your top number one position to add. I think we'd all agree that like right wing, and we all know we're still constantly like linked to Sancho, right? But yeah, Mark, I mean, is right wing top of your list for where we should be going and improving at the moment?
Sort of. Spoke about it briefly before.
What about Greenwood? Yeah, he's obviously done damn well there.
Exactly, and for the age that he's at, maturity issues aside, yeah,
we'll get onto that. We'll get onto that.
Obviously, he's getting the goals. He could probably do with getting maybe a couple more assists. His output hasn't been at those Sancho 20 goals, 20 assist levels. Very few people in European football are doing that though. But certainly for his age, and you'd be worried about taking minutes away possibly. But I mean, in terms of depth and what we need more of that kind of quality in that position. And but on an individual player for player basis, we probably could do with a top tier centre back more than that right wing if you're just looking at it from a first 11 perspective. But I think the unanimous feeling is that we need that strength in attack more right now, because if Martial goes down, then it's looking very, very barren. And whereas Greenwood can step into that before you get down to Urigalo or whatever, like if someone like Martial like that goes down, it's back to Lingard and Pereira again, and no one wants that. There's enough crap in 2020.
Yeah, totally. I think the less we see of Lingard, Pereira, the better. And yeah, we will talk about why we've probably not seen players leave either. As many as I expected, never mind players who are coming in. I thought there might be a few more names leaving by now, but it's kind of been a slow window in general. But yeah, I totally agree with that, because for me, the area of the first team that does need improving is definitely centre-back. I don't think Lindelof is good enough. And in fact, it's interesting in the international games we just had. I don't know if you saw that, Sweden-France, where he actually gives away a penalty by bringing down Martial in the game over there. It said a lot about where the two players have been this season. Martial now getting plaudits all round from Hugo Lloris as captain, Didier Deschamps, and they've all as well again mentioned how he's a totally rejuvenated player on and off the field, and giving a lot of credit for Ole for that big change in Martial as well. But yeah, centre-back for me is a area we do want to improve in, but we've not really had any strong links to anybody. I've seen the, Upamecano there and a couple of other names thrown about, but doesn't seem to be any real strong links, do they, Jamie? You're our new normal head transfer muppet. So yeah, in the centre-back area, is there any strong links to anybody?
No, as we discussed before we came on, it's only the centre-half for Monaco that I've seen any solid links for, the Badiashile player. I'm not sure we even got to a stage of discussing any real fee or anything like that. We kind of sounded out Monaco from the tweets and sources that I've read, and they came straight back and said they were wanting Anthony Martial money for him, and that's a gamble and a half at centre half when the lad's only, I think, 19. It's his first real season. You can take a gamble on a certain position, but not centre half, not when you're going to be paying a lot of money. And I just think, I agree that I think we definitely need a really strong centre half. It's kind of disappointing that we're not seeing many links at all, other than Badiashile. I've seen a few links with Upamecano, but again, every kind of source from Germany or France is telling us that it's not going to happen this season. Definitely not. Might be next season, because I think there's a clause that comes into effect from next season. But for this season, it doesn't look likely. So I get the feeling they've kind of shelved the idea of getting a centre half, and they're looking at other positions.
It'll be one of those two.
So talking about the centre-back position, we're not managing to have any strong links to anybody, but yeah, we did have a question from Twitter. Fergus Lockhart was asking, what do you think are the chances of Rojo coming back into the team? There's been quite a lot of rumours this week about Rojo and Smalling maybe being given another chance, because we're not managing to find any serious options at centre-back. I mean, yeah, I know, Ashwin, you're a big fan of Rojo, so did you ever expect to see him back in a Man United shirt?
I did not. I wouldn't say I'm his biggest fan. I just think he's been fine when he's fit. He has this reputation as, being super rash, but I think that's just based on two challenges he made in Jose's first season.
No.
Yeah, we think, he did say that, Fergus. He said that he makes...
He broke his shoulder against City, just going mental 50-yard slide tackle, and I think he was out for about 3 months off the strength of it.
I mean, that's fine. I think when most people are talking about it, though, they're talking about his disciplinary record, which, again, if you compare it to Smalling...
He's not been sent off.
Who?
Rojo's never not been
that's my
sent
point.
off.
That's my point, though. People talk about him as this fucking liability on the pitch, as if he's going to be flying into challenges 2-footed all the time, and it doesn't happen. And I think, in terms of just ability on the ball, I think he fits a lot better what Solskjaer wants from his center halves. I think that the profile of center half that we were going after this summer was supposed to be left-footed players that are left-footed. So obviously that's something that he does bring, and as we know, Van Gaal, that's why he bought him. And I just I like the kind of, sometimes the way he passes it, he passes with some actual, purpose, and there's pace on it, there's whip. I don't know. I mean, I'm not enthusiastic about how much he's going to add because he'll probably be injured within 2 weeks. But sure, I mean, I think there's like there's qualities to him, kind of just like his willingness to take risks that would benefit us, as well as just his left-footedness.
Those passes with zip, they're shots on goal. You understand that, yeah?
He's obsessed with scoring from 40 yards.
I mean, like, I understand that those are fun things to, like, make fun of, and, like, they're stupid things he does. I don't think that consists of the only things he does when he actually plays. But, yeah, I mean, it's a fun, joke and meme to make out of it, sure. I understand that.
Yeah, I think Fergus on Twitter did say that he makes Eric Bailly look like the most composed defender we have. And, I mean, like I said, when he went off back to Argentina, I didn't ever expect to see him back. But I think he's one of these players that we have the same problem with so many times, where he's got such a big contract that he doesn't want to take a pay cut and nobody else wants to pay those wages.
I think he's on like £160,000 a week.
Which is just it's mental. So it's been about 3 summers we've been trying to get rid of Marcus Rojo now, and the only thing he has going for him is that he's left-footed. It's the only reason he ever came to the club in the first place, and he's still kind of hanging around. So it is a weird one. I mean, I would be a lot happier actually to see Chris Smalling back, but I think he really does want out, and he was pretty comfortable at Roma. And seems again there's just a bit of haggling going on between the clubs over there. I wouldn't be against seeing Smalling back at all, but I think he probably doesn't really want to come back, whereas I'm sure Rojo is desperate to get back in the team. It'll be interesting to see.
So I'm not against any player coming back and in his instance having a sort of redemption, if you will. But I don't see it. I don't see it. Like I would like to. Like, and all of these players that have been frozen out, if they were able to somehow force their way back into the squad, then then that'd be grand. But I think you're right. I think Smalling definitely wants out.
Well, he can actually be sold too, so it would be stupid not to. I mean, like if we could sell both of them, then I would say sell Rojo, but we can't sell both of them. So one has to stay. One will stay purely because of that fact. So like,
you can't sell Jones. You probably can't sell Bailly. You can't sell Rojo. I mean, you shouldn't really sell Lindelof and Maguire because they're starting two, and that's going to be the basis of your backup right there as well. If better ones come in, so Smalling's the only.
There is Tuanzebe as well. That's kind of just this. I don't. He's never been an injury-prone player, but what ended up being last season. So I kind of not lost hope for him, but I think he's still not really reappeared yet. So I don't know how bad his injury is. We'll have to see for that.
And Mengi
he'll be the reason why you don't see an out-and-out central defensive midfielder come in as well, because this is something I think Solskjaer is going to work towards, because he's always said that that's the role that he's seen Tuanzebe in. He's always dropped in that central defensive midfielder whenever he's talked about Tuanzebe, so I would not be shocked if Tuanzebe's fit. You'll see him start there a couple of times this year, I think.
Yeah, all right. And then, Ashwin, you just mentioned, Mengi, who's been getting a lot of plaudits from Ole, and we kind of saw come into the squad just towards the end of lockdown. He's captained the team tonight, and our youth team won 6-0 against Gary Neville's Salford City team in the EFL Trophy. I saw a really good goal from Hannibal Medjbury there. Garner was playing.
Anthony Olanga
Laird was playing.
Laird got hurt. He went off in the 52nd minute with a hamstring, I think.
That's a shock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then, but Simon Stone, for whatever it's worth, he tweeted out that Medjbury completely ran the show. So, good signs anyway.
Yeah, and that's exactly the reason why we shouldn't be looking at a 19-year-old centre-back, because we've got a damn good teenage prospect ourselves over there, coming in over there. So look, let's see what happens at centre-back. But I think we all kind of agree it is an area that we can improve in, but there's not any so obvious names of who we're getting in over there. So we'll see what happens there.
I think it's also probably, it might be worth considering that he's shaping, Ole has talked about this too, and Butt has talked about creating pathways into the first team. It might be as simple as Medjbury is not ready yet to come in and start challenging for Bruno's spot or Pogba's spot. Right wing, there's to my knowledge, I don't think there's any obvious candidate coming from the academy. You'd say, oh yeah, he's definitely one that you can have there with Greenwood, and they can just nail down that position. center half, like we have a starting pair. We have some guys at least that could be depth if they ever stay fit. But it's a path. Like if you have prospects that position you like, then maybe you don't think it's like necessary to go spend 35, 40 million pound on a center back. Whereas right wing, I don't think there's a candidate there, and left back, Williams, we saw it. Like he puts in a good shift, I guess, but that not having a left footer there behind Shaw is a really big problem.
Yeah, well, I do actually think that Ole sees Williams more as right back actual option, and he's even played him there a couple of times, and that's why, now we've been linked a lot with Sergio Reguilon, right? Jamie, what's the lowdown on this guy?
I was impressed with him. Again, I've only seen him play in the Europa League in Europe, but
yeah, he played against us, didn't he, in the semi-final? He played in the final,
and he actually got the assist for the first goal as well, and
he kept Greenwood pretty quiet as well in that
I thought
match.
He was just pretty solid all round. I thought he was excellent going forward. He caused Wan-Bissaka no end of problems down our right side. Kept Greenwood quiet. I just thought he was all round a very good performance. And then I watched the final when they played against Inter, and I thought he was just excellent again. Just very good all round.
He was in La Liga's team of the season.
Yeah, I've kind of had a look about, and in some of the La Liga teams of the season, obviously it's different papers and things like that. I've picked different players, but he's in a lot of them. He's in the Europa League team of the season, and one of the stats I saw last year in La Liga, 31 appearances, 2 goals, 4 assists, which is pretty good for a left back. Like you say, he's in team of the season.
It does seem a bit strange, though, that like Real Madrid are ready to get rid of him. I mean, he's come through their youth team. He's a young player. He's just had his Spain debut. So, that's the only bit that I find a bit weird. But, sometimes players just don't fit, a surplus to requirements. I don't know why exactly. And they did bring in Mendy, right?
Yeah, sellable assets again. They're in financial trouble. I don't think there's any secret about that. And again, he's just an easily sellable asset for them, and I think they don't want to lose him. And I think that's what the hold-up is with the deal as it pertains to us, because they want this buyback clause by all accounts, or at least the first refusal option should we ever move on from him or whatever, which I can't see us doing. I imagine that'd be the only hold-up to a deal, because that seems to be where all the noise is coming from.
I think that is the hold-up. I think the buyback / first refusal is what's holding the deal up, because I don't think Madrid do want to get rid of him. I think that's right. I think they would rather keep him, but I think the problem is Zidane doesn't seem to want him. He would rather have Mendy and Marcelo, and every time he's asked, he seems to just be dropping those 2 names. And Marca, on their Twitter and on different social media feeds, they're constantly talking about Mendy and Marcelo as well. So I don't think it's that they are desperate to get rid of him. I don't think they are. I think the club want to keep him. I think Zidane's maybe just told them that, look, he's probably going to be third choice behind those 2 players. Hence why, they're open to selling him, but they are desperate to get this buyback or first refusal in the deal. And I just think that's what's holding it up, because I don't think United are wanting to entertain that whatsoever.
I think that's why there were like random links to, Tellez from
Porto,
I think that's probably United just kind of putting something out there to put some pressure on Madrid. I can't imagine Ole wanting to buy a 28-year-old left back who's had, I think, significant injury issues too. Tellez, if I remember correctly. But Reguilon looks pretty good. If we can get that deal, if we can get that and we get Sancho done, I wouldn't say that's not the greatest window ever, but in terms of ins, that would be a fairly solid window.
Yeah, I mean, right now, those are really the 2 where there looks to be real solid interest. I mean, every day we're linked to random names, and last week people were talking about Thiago Alcantara. I don't know, I see Josh King, and there's still talks about Brooks and Grealish, and every day there's different names. But the 2 I think are realistic signings, and this seems to be some real solid interest, is Reguilon and Sancho. I mean, we had as well old friend of the podcast, DJ Langster, asking, do you think we're going to have any more signings, and who? And for me, those are probably the 2 who look like they may well still happen. I mean, even though the season's starting next week, there's still like about a month of the transfer window left. And it's frustrating for everybody, but it's been the pattern for seasons and seasons now that we end up doing our business very late in the window. Just seems to be the way we go about things, to save 5 million here, save 10 million there. And I guess, when there's bankers and accountants involved, that's kind of their priority, I suppose. And I just kind of now am resigned to that's the way we're always going to do our business. But I do still expect that we'll get in at least a couple more players, and that a couple will leave as well. I don't know if any of you see anything different there. I mean, we're all still expecting Sancho to come in, right?
Absolutely, it's done.
You think it's just you're not worried about it at all? It's definitely. I think like we're talking about it being done August the 7th. We're even past September the 7th now. But I do as well still expect this deal to be done. It's pretty clear that Sancho wants to come. It's pretty clear that we want him. There's obviously some kind of disagreement over price. And yeah, you can understand it that in, COVID times, I mean, I think I mentioned a couple of podcasts ago that while we're still behind closed doors, there's at least 50 million quid of season ticket money that's not come into our coffers this summer. And even though, we are one of the biggest clubs with a lot of money, is still going to make a difference to anybody. And I think everybody can see that apart from Chelsea, it's been a quietish transfer window so far for everybody. There's not been that many big deals. There's definitely been a lot less activity across the board. The only thing I'm not seeing that much, though, is that, do any of you think that there's actually been, the prices have come down in the market? You look at some of the fees that Chelsea have paid, and they look to be kind of similar prices.
Van de Beek came. He was supposed to go for £50 million to Madrid. That was the rumored fee that they had agreed upon. That was in the Athletic article I read at least a couple weeks, or whenever we signed him. And I think last summer it was the same thing, that they had agreed a deal, but then Madrid pushed it off for this summer. So I think it just depends on the clubs and who's involved in their situation. Like Porto, I think Porto sold that kid to Wolves, and apparently there were a lot of teams that didn't even expect him to move this summer because they didn't know that Porto needed money like that. So I think that there is some element of clubs out there that do need money, and if you're knowledgeable enough about what's going on in the market, you can probably take advantage of that.
Porto have always been incredibly good sellers, though.
They have.
Yeah,
of course.
Even for 40 million, and that's desperation for a pretty unproven kid. That's still really, really, really good business. I think there's not too much evidence of prices coming down in the market. I guess you could say if you look at that Ollie Watkins that's gone from Brentford for 28 odd million,
insane.
33 million, something
from the
like
Championship.
that. And then you got Callum Wilson, who's England international, or at least knocking on the door of England, going for just over 15 up to Newcastle, who have quietly done some decent business for themselves.
Yeah, they do seem to have done a pretty good deal there. Yeah, there is. I think maybe we might see as we get closer to the end of the window, there will be some more deals go through, and there will probably be a bit of lessening. But I think in general, maybe if we've not seen prices come down, there's definitely less activity than you would normally have seen at this part. It is definitely a weird year, obviously, and for obvious reasons. And there's not as many players moving. All clubs have got less money, whether it's from TV money deals down, whether it's from gate receipts down. So yeah, I guess it's just pretty normal.
Next year will be the big one. Next summer will be a lot. I think a lot of clubs are in that sort of speculate to accumulate mood right now. They're willing to sort of hold onto whatever they can and just do whatever they can to keep the books ticking over, in the hope that fans are going to start coming back through and all the money is just going to start coming back in and back in. If we're still in a lockdown situation for a lot of this season, I think next summer there's going to be a lot of clubs that are looking at their books going, oh, fuck me, we need to sort this out, and there'll be a few more surprising sales next summer, I think, because in a world where Sandro Tonali's going for 40 odd million, Ollie Watkins for 33 million, you're not going to see the full effects of this until maybe another couple of seasons down the line, if it doesn't get back on board as everyone's hoping that it will do.
Yeah, and I do see a lot of people going on about, oh, look, but Chelsea have spent all this money. But yeah, people seem to forget that they didn't buy anybody last summer because they had transfer embargo. Plus, they sold Eden Hazard for something like 120 million.
Yeah.
So they had all that money sitting in their account. Plus, they've got this summer's budget. So they're actually only really spending what they would have normally spent over a couple of years. And they're not really. It just looks crazy because it's all coming at the moment.
I think the big thing though is like, even if the prices aren't coming down for the big, like, some of these bigger transfers in a normal market, United might not have what is essentially a free run at Sancho, right? Maybe Madrid has money to spend, Barcelona has money to spend. There are clubs that would have money to spend in another scenario, whereas now, Barcelona they're dealing with their own mess, and Madrid seems to have tightened the belt a little bit on their finances. So United, for all intents and purposes, has a free run at him. And Chelsea did benefit from this in some way with Kai Havertz, right? I think initially they wanted €90 million for him, and I think they settled on 70 million. So I don't think United's issue is meeting the asking price. I think it's the structure of how they want to set it up. Because Dortmund wants at least everything from the reports, it seems Dortmund wants £108 million, initially or guaranteed up front. United want to do 90 million and then 18 in add-ons. So, I just can't see how the deal doesn't get done. But I do think like there is probably some, element of United trying to get at least a little bit, so that they can say, oh yeah, look, Woodward, master of the transfer window.
Yeah, and often it's not just it's not always just the two clubs, as we know. There's like intermediaries who are looking for a commission. And so, yeah, I'm sure it's now in these situations, like it's up to actually the player. Maybe he has to take a bit less money and maybe his agent has to take a bit less money. And then in the end, everybody agrees it. But yeah, I kind of expect as well that this deal will be done, and it might still go right to the end of the window, which will be annoying. But yeah, like I said, in the long term, people often get worried about saying, look, why don't we just put the money down? Then he's in training, we've got him. But yeah, if you're looking at the long term and you're thinking a player's going to be with you for 5-10 years, then, a few weeks here and there doesn't actually make that big a difference. So yeah, look, let's see how that plays out.
But then neither does a few million, really. Like that's the blowback from that is, yeah, okay, a couple of weeks versus 10 years, but I mean, does it really matter if it's 108 or 105?
To me, it doesn't matter. It's not my money, right? But, as I say, we've got bankers in charge of the club. So, yeah, I guess you just have to accept that that's the way it's going to be run.
I don't think it's the money in terms of how much we're paying overall. I think the issue is United are adamant they're only going to pay a certain amount of money up front, and they're going to break that down over 3 instalments over this summer, next summer, and the year after, and the rest of the money will be made up in add-ons. But Fabrizio Romano, for the entire summer, has said Dortmund are sticking to the asking price. They don't care how it's met. They want that money. So the add-ons, from their point of view, doesn't make up the money. So it's not so much the haggling over a fee of a few million. It's still a significant amount of money, because Man United are saying that 18 million or whatever it is, we're going to have that in add-ons, whereas Dortmund are saying, no, we're not having it in add-ons. You need to have that included in the overall fee, then break it down however you want. So I think the issue is trying to determine how much money in a fixed price is going to be paid over the next 3 years. Then the remaining money that's to be made up for the entire fee, how are they going to pay that? Because they aren't wanting the add-ons. So whether that then has to come down to, I don't know, something to do with incentives of how many times he plays. If he plays 30 games this season, we'll pay extra amount. So I think the difficulty isn't really how much we're paying up front. It's this additional money that they're having trouble structuring and how we're going to pay it.
Yeah, and look, I think in every single deal, these kind of things. It's not special that we're talking about Sancho. Every single deal has these kind of clauses. It's just normal business. So I don't know why Dortmund would be so adamant that, yeah, bring us a check, put the money in our bank account. I mean, to be honest, as far as I understand, like nearly all big deals are done in this way, break down with clauses. And if you hit this, if you win the Ballon d'Or, if you win the Champions League, and yeah, for me, that makes sense. Like, the player proves himself, he proves his worth, and yeah, you pay out for it. And I don't really see the big deal in that. But yeah, look, who knows? You never know exactly what's going on behind closed doors. And as I always say, even when you get people like who say they're in the nose, they'll all have their own kind of personal vested interests, and somebody's being briefed from one side, somebody's being briefed by another, then the agent's putting out stories. So yeah, a lot of these stories that you come out and read, like 90% of it is all just like smoke and mirrors anyway. Like I say, I always say, don't believe any of it. But all we do know is Sancho wants to come. We want him, and hopefully somewhere in the middle it does get sorted out. But yeah, as I say, those are the two that I think we're all kind of still thinking are realistic: Sancho and Reguilon. And then yeah, look, after that, I still won't be surprised if there's some other random transfer comes in, but that'll probably depend on who goes out. I mean, players like Lingard, Pereira, Diego Dalot. Smalling, there should be some money in for. I mean, and yeah, there's also Romero. Now, Henderson, since we've last recorded, has signed a massive new deal. Seeing quite a lot of outcry on Twitter as well about how on earth are we paying him like 100 something thousand or something like that. But yeah, I guess he is now an England international, and as soon as you kind of hit that level, then yeah, people do start talking about six-figure salaries. It was interesting though to see that David De Gea was getting a lot of plaudits from his Spanish manager for his performance against Germany, and saying that he's been getting too much criticism. And I think Ed on the podcast thinks that he's still expecting De Gea to step up and kind of reclaim that jersey, whereas a lot of people are thinking Henderson's going to come in now. So it's going to be good how that plays out over here, and it's just generally the same message about having competition for places will either force De Gea to bring back his level to what he was doing 3 years ago, or yeah, look, if he makes a mistake, then Henderson gets his chance, and it's up to him to show he's worthy of it, really. I think we've talked quite a few times over the podcast on that kind of De Gea Henderson thing, and Henderson's been making a few comments as well, who's really putting out his stall for saying, look, I want that number 1 shirt and I'm going to be fighting for that. And yeah, he's not going to be happy to have a kind of Romero role, I don't think. Romero himself shouldn't be happy with the Romero role after being left out of cup finals and semi-finals and stuff like that. And he should really move on himself, I think. But again, it's probably going to be that issue of what are his wages and does anybody want to pay it, really. Looking as well around some of those international games, I think surely, yeah, you would have, Jamie, watched that Scotland game, right? I'm quite interested in what kind of role was Scott McTominay playing over there. And I saw that Scotland managed to get quite a good win. What I thought initially, I was surprised. I always expect the Scots to fail, to be honest.
Thanks, mate.
There goes that fan base.
Thanks.
Well, yeah, look, like, yeah, that's what we've got used to in recent times. And but yeah, I saw they got a good away win at the Czech Republic, but then I saw that Czech Republic team had been absolutely devastated by COVID, with about 9 of their regular starters were not available, and they still kind of squeezed a thing there. But yeah, like I say, I'm most interested in where did Scott play and how did he play in those games.
I'll go back to the Israel game first, because that was on Friday night. So I agree with the BBC ratings that they gave out for both games. So for BBC, the rating of McTominay against Israel was 4.45 out of 10. His rating against the Czech Republic was 4.6 out of 10. The caveat is he was told to play on the right-hand side of a back three. So technically he was playing the right centre-back role. That's not his position at all. In any shape or form, that is not his position. But at the same time, I thought he was really lackadaisical. In the Czech Republic game, as you say, there was loads of changes. So we had a pretty strong team out by our standards for who we can field. But the Czech Republic team was full of guys in their debuts, guys at 30 making their debuts. And was caught sleeping for their goal. The guy doesn't even make a complicated run. Their forward is literally just stood off McTominay, and McTominay just leaves him in terms of like his eye line, just leaves him, just looks back at the ball, isn't concentrating on his man. The guy just runs behind him, just in a straight line, runs behind him, receives the ball, scores. And if that was a one-off, I'd be like, yeah, okay, that's a lapse, but you can deal with it. But against Israel, I thought the same as well. There was crosses coming into the box from the far side. He's getting caught under the ball and missing them. Israel really should have scored before they did, purely off one cross that came in. McTominay totally misreads it, ends up getting caught underneath it. The ball drops at the far post. Their player has a shot. Marshall manages to save it and we clear it. But throughout the game...
Yeah, well, I remember Jose played him in a centre-back position way back, and he had a nightmare, didn't he? So, yeah, I don't know why they're giving him that again. I mean, like I said, for me, I was hoping that Scott comes in and kind of adapts his game a bit and becomes that kind of successor to Matic. And maybe it's like wishful thinking because, you know, I always want our youth players to come in and cement themselves. But I don't know. Yeah, let's see where he goes from here this season. Because, yeah, he has that kind of breakout year. He did really, I think, yeah, he got one of our Player of the Month awards last season. And had a great time around just before getting injured around Christmas time, and then didn't play so much in the running. So yeah, where Ole sees his role going forward is going to be quite interesting. Let's switch over to England now after having a quick laugh at you Scots.
A laugh? We're top with 4 points, mate.
Well, it's time to laugh at England now. You can have a good laugh. You know, we started with 4 United players in this England squad. Rashford then got injured, which was kind of good timing because he definitely needed a rest. Maguire then got arrested. So, yeah, this has all happened since last time we recorded. Dropped out of the squad. Greenwood then makes his debut and becomes like, I don't know, the youngest player for however long to play for England. He's all set up for making his full debut against Denmark and then manages to just screw it up completely with this absolute ridiculous kind of fiasco with Phil Foden. I mean, normally I would just not be too arsed about this kind of thing, you know, whatever, boys will be boys and that kind of stuff. But in a kind of COVID era, it does seem pretty crazy. And more than that as well, like I just find it very like naive and just think that how thick are they? Like, you know, there's a lot of like pictures and videos now coming out of these kind of girls sat in the room and you're like, how stupid are you? Like, even if you do that kind of thing, like it doesn't even bother me, but to actually like let them film it and like get photos and stuff like that, like you really need to learn from that kind of thing if you're going forward. And I'm sure like Ole will be absolutely seething because it was earlier in the season where there was some other video came out of Greenwood, right, with some girl and Instagram something or another, and Ole definitely left him out of a few squads around that time, and I'm sure he'd had a word with him off field and said, listen, I don't want to see any of this like Instagram rubbish, and you better watch what you're putting out on social media for sure, because it was that early part of the season where he didn't come in the squad as much as we kind of expected, and I'm pretty sure a lot of it was down to that. So I don't know what's going to happen from this. Now, the shame was Froz, that he'd done like the England press conference just a few days earlier, and I actually thought he'd done a really like mature job, said all the right things, and I was like, yeah, he's really stepping up, looking like feet on the ground, and then to do that like a few days later is just a bit crazy. I mean, yeah, I don't know what you think about all this, Mark. You think it's all just hoo-ha over nothing, or do you think it's something we should worry about in Greenwood's future?
I'm reminded of Idris Elba's character in The Wire, where they're in a meeting and he's like, are you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? Like, you know, like how stupid do you need to be? I mean, look, there's absolutely zero justification for what he did. He's an idiot for doing it. Phil Foden's no better. Arguably slightly worse, given he's a bit older and he's been around City's first team a bit longer as well. You would think that he would know a thing or two about standards and what should be expected out of him. As I don't think you get in and around City's first team without an air of professionalism. Being a youth player, you need to have obviously be talented, but you need to have the right attitude as well. I think to get around a Pep sort of squad with the amount of money that he has available to him and the rest of it. So you would expect better of both of them. It's obviously a bit of a storm in a teacup, and it's obviously because it's Man United and it's Man City and it's the two together, and that's obviously makes it a bigger story than what it is. You just hope that they've not endangered. If I was the rest, I think the people who have the right to be angriest at them, I mean, obviously the press or whatever, they're going to be the press, but the people who need to be angriest at them are their England teammates. If I was Southgate, I would just automatically, regardless of their form coming into the next international break, they should be nowhere near the squad. I think because
I would make them play. I would make them pay for the under-21s again.
Yeah,
and say, listen, you've not shown you're not ready for the men's game, so you go back and play with the under-21s. That's what I would do personally.
Yeah, and that's the only real thing. Forget the danger that you put yourselves in. If you don't care about yourselves, that's fine. But it's bringing that into it's called a bubble for a reason. Like, you shouldn't be bringing any kind of risk upon your teammates like that. And those two now going back to their clubs, they have every reason to expect that their own teammates will be looking at them a bit side-eyed now, going like, hang about, can I, right now my health is in his hands and my health is in everybody's hands. So I need to be able to trust him to be able to do the right thing.
At the end of the day, it's lack of professionalism, isn't it? More than anything. It's just the total lack of professionalism.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is too. One thing, though, I will say, though, is that, one of these young kids coming in, you look at who are their role models, and then you look in that England squad, and there's like Kyle Walker, who 3 times during COVID lockdown, broke all the rules, bringing hookers back to his place and whatever, and still plays for England. And sometimes I think that, that doesn't send out the right message to younger guys coming in, that somebody like that is still playing anyway, and then getting sent off and actually being useless anyhow at the end of it. These kind of things do need to be thought about, and those England games are absolutely awful, barely even worth watching, and total waste of time. But I think we all know that this kind of Nations League was a whole weird timing for just starting before this season gets in. But popping round as well, did read that Daniel James had a pretty good showing for Wales, so hopefully he can come back in and challenge a little bit for the squad there. Pogba didn't go with France because he's actually got COVID, but should be fine for the start of the season. Aaron Wan-Bissaka was not with England because he's in quarantine because he went out to the wrong country on holiday. So it's not really the best pre-season preparations for Ole, but hopefully we can get all this stuff sorted out before our first match next week. I mean,
hey, Dallow's got a chance here.
You think, these kind of
redemption.
But I think, like I say, Wan-Bissaka quarantine will be over. I'm sure Pogba's COVID kind of session will have finished by then as well. So even though these things sound bad, I think by the time we actually start next weekend, they're all going to be ready for action again there.
I mean, they only stopped playing 24 days ago. That's the last time we played. So I personally can't care that. I mean, it's not great that Wan-Bissaka went to a country that he was told not to go to. That's bad. But the fact that they're quarantined, I don't think it'll actually cost us much in terms of preparation. So I guess in terms of that aspect of it, I'm not too concerned.
Yeah, I actually think they needed the rest. And, as I've said earlier, for me, even the Europa League, I was more ready to give players rest, and because I want this season for us really to be going for it, focusing on the league and not having any of these issues of tiredness and whatever that really has hampered us for 2 seasons in a row now, really, as it's gone over there. We do start the season against Palace at home. I did find it very bizarre that stories coming out today saying that the club are talking to the council about trying to bring 10,000 fans into the stadium for the match next week. At a time when our COVID rates are rising. Manchester is one of the worst areas of the country. I can't really understand why they'd be looking to do this. And on a personal level, I don't think I'd even want to go, even if they did open it up. I mean, it's still slightly weird because we as season ticket holders, we've not really renewed yet because it's not clear what's going on. I'm still owed as well for 4 matches from last season, which didn't happen. But this is a problem for all clubs. I did see that Brighton were the first who did some kind of trial last week, and I think they had 2,000 fans in the stadium and kind of seemed to go all right. But for me, it's pretty weird seeing, fans all spaced out and you're not allowed to sing. And then I'm like, well, why would I even want to go to the match? But on the other side of it, it's a massive problem for clubs who are going to be missing out on all these gate receipts, that cash all the way, especially like lower down in the leagues. It's even more of a problem. So yeah, that's going to be a kind of theme that's going to be an issue all the way through. But yeah, look, anyway, we do kick off against Palace. I saw Palace haven't done much transfer business either this summer. Again, like we're always trying to get rid of Rojo. They're always waiting for Zaha to leave so they can spend that money, but nobody ever seems to want to take him or pay what he's worth, basically. But they did bring in this Eze from QPR, who's in England under 21 and scored for quite a few goals in the Championship last season. But yeah, that's going to be our start there. Normally, around this time of year, we would try and give our season predictions and things like that. I always think it's a bit difficult to do it before you know what your squad is, before you see the end of the window. But are we feeling confident? I mean, what do you think, Jamie? Where do you expect us to be finishing this season?
I'm expecting third, but not third as in a distant
third.
I think it's a third where we'll put pressure on, because I still just think Man City's squad is just the best in the league. I know Liverpool won the league, but City's squad is the best in the league. I still think Liverpool are going to be tough to beat. So I think those two clubs, I think, will probably finish above us. But despite that, I still think we could make quite a good fist of it and get into third. I mean, our target really should just be thinking, well, we finished third last season. I can't remember the points total off the top of my head, but that should be the target, is just making sure we're as close as we possibly can be to Man City and Liverpool, and better in the points total than last year, getting as close as we can to them, and then building on that.
What about you other guys? Ashwin?
I'm not particularly bothered by where we finish. I think it's more about points. So, like, if we get Sancho, if we get a left back, I think that's enough with what we already have in the squad. You know, barring some crazy rash of injuries, I would say, pushing around 80 points would represent good progress from where we were over the course of a full season. I don't know where that would leave us in the table. I assume that would be a pretty comfortable top 4 finish at least. But yeah, 80 points, and I think just an improvement in our ability to kind of break down deep lying defenses. I think that would be a really, really good sign of progress. I don't know. That just, maybe that's like too simplistic of an answer. I don't know. I don't really. I just think like if you get that many points, the finishing spot will kind of figure itself out. But I do think City are likely to maybe not run away with the league, but win the league by a few points. And I think Liverpool will fall back closer to that 80-point mark than they were the last couple of years.
All right, and Mark?
Yeah, I'd probably go along with both of those, to be honest. I think around an 80-point finish would see us probably around third. I think Chelsea are going to be interesting, to say the least. They've front-loaded like a motherfucker. They've still look weak as hell at centre-back. And the entire defence is getting older, I think. So, I still think, although there's been a lot of flashy Chelsea signings, I still think that they'll struggle to keep the ball out the net. So as long as Ashwin says, as long as we get to in and around that 80-point mark, as long as I think if we aim to be around about 4 wins above where we were this season, then as I say, I think, and that's like a Burnley at home, for instance, and
Bournemouth away,
like those sorts of games. Those are the games that we need to just win those games. If we win those games, you get to 80 points. The rest of it, like, he seems well equipped to take on the big games. We know that about him. It's those smaller games and picking up the garbage points, so to speak, that you need to get. And as long as we do more of that, then we'll finish around 80 points. Also, wildcard prediction: Lingard at right back.
Oh, that's a real wild card prediction.
Hot take, baby,
I mean, I do
takes.
actually remember. Didn't he make his debut against somebody like Swansea under Van Hal at right
wing back, and he played that.
Yeah, and he broke his leg, didn't he?
yeah. He played that entire pre-season at right wing back, and he was an absolute demon. Like, he was one of the best things about that pre-season. It was all geared up to be Lingard at right wing back, and then he just, like, his leg exploded against Swansea.
It was quite early on as well, wasn't it? It was like 15 minutes in or something as well.
Yeah, no time at all, and it was like meant to be his big debut breakout season. It was just traumatic, but I think he's got it within him. I don't know, like, it's one of those weird things that I just came up with that kind of makes sense, but you're never going to see it in a million years.
Exactly. We're never going to see it. But anyway, cheers for throwing it out. I mean, it's a shame, actually, we didn't get David on, because I know he was... and Ed as well, I think, thinking that we're actually going to be making a title challenge this season. So, yeah, hopefully we'll get them on the next couple of podcasts, because they're a lot more positive going in. I think I'm actually a bit more positive than you guys, just because, like, you know, we were so awful, like, for a lot of last season, but we still came third. And we saw post-lockdown, and even not even post-lockdown, even like kind of, you know, this year, like Jan, Feb onwards, we were like played like very good football, some of the best football we've played definitely since Fergie, where, you know, a team was really coming together. We know that our front three can score goals, the creativity in the middle, and it was only just lacking those kind of squad players who can come in when some of the big names are injured is where we were falling down. And yeah, Van Beek comes in. I think even if it's not Sancho, I'm absolutely sure we will bring in at least a couple of other players who will add to the squad. Who they are, I have no idea. And I don't see why we can't be pushing something high. I mean, I do know why, like, you think that, yeah, City and Liverpool are still ahead of us, but it doesn't always work out like that. Like, I'm absolutely sure Liverpool will fall off a little bit from what they've been doing. City as well, you can kind of see where there's some kind of trouble in the back over there. You know, players like Silva leaving, Aguero is definitely past his best. They've still got kind of question marks over their defence. So I don't think it's as clear cut that they're going to be so far ahead of us. I think we're going to be a lot better. I think Chelsea are going to be better. Even I think Arsenal will come on there, but I would expect us to be a lot closer to like the top. And I don't think we're going to win the league, but I just think that we should be definitely like closing that gap by a long way.
I think we could overtake Liverpool. I think they're really going to drop off. Like their front three has played something like 30 straight Premier League matches. Like for as good as they've performed over the last 2 years, they actually don't have that deep of a squad. They're not spending much. They're acting like they're, you know, Bournemouth or something with how they're operating in the transfer window. And I mean, it's hard. I think it's hard probably to get motivated again after 2 seasons like they've had, where, you know, you win Champions League, you finish a point short of doing the double, but then you come back and you basically, you know, walk the league. I think it's hard to stay motivated and keep that kind of same mentality. And they got really fortunate in a lot of their results last year. Like they had so many crazy, you know,
late wins.
Yeah, there's so many.
But yeah, but to be fair, we used to do that when we were in the league as well under Fergie, and it is that kind of, you know, what you say, sign of champions. But yeah, I as well think that they can't keep up what they've done for a couple of years. And we did actually have another random question on Twitter, and I wasn't even going to talk about it, but since we've kind of got onto it, I don't know if you've seen that there has been this kind of rumours about doping and concoctions of caffeine and sports drinks coming out and linked basically to the Liverpool team. We heard similar things about Pep's teams and saying that these guys are juicing and all. And yeah, I mean, for me, it starts becoming a bit like conspiracy theory stuff. But yeah, it is just kind of funny stuff to throw out there. But in general, like I say, I just can't see them like carrying that on. You know, we haven't even seen teams very rarely like win 2 Premier Leagues in a row. I mean, all right, Pep did it relatively recently, but apart from that, it hadn't happened for a long time.
And it's basically just United, right? I mean, for the most part.
If we take the lockdown form as like a snapshot of where the squad is at and what the squad that we've got now is capable of, if you add to it, take the snapshot of the lockdown form, if you manage to replicate that in 4 different chunks, I don't know where we end up in terms of points, but that's if that's a realistic cross section of and a realistic sample size of what we can be expecting from Ole and this squad, with additions on top of that as well, then I suppose I can get on board with Nick's abundant optimism.
So, I mean, with Bruno, I think he played 14 matches, I believe, in the Premier League. That those 14 matches, we were top of the table for those 14 matches. This is like, some rock level theory. But if you just, I mean, that's the part that I kind of find it's really hard to know how to take the lockdown form or the post lockdown form, just because we've never really seen a schedule like that where you're playing, constantly every 2-3 days, and you could see the fatigue and like the level of play drop off towards the end. But yeah, I mean, like 14 matches, you finish basically top of the table above, in that stretch. It's not insignificant. It definitely shows like there is quality in the squad. Like I think that's why I still like our squad more than Chelsea's, because I think we still have better top line talent than they do.
They're going to have to integrate a lot of new players, and that doesn't happen so quickly. Like you see a lot of times where teams go and buy a lot of players and it doesn't just work out. People just think it's like playing, FIFA or something. All right, buy these 5 players and they're all going to be amazing. And Werner's going to score the same amount of goals as he did last season. And it doesn't work like that. Like, to bring these players in takes time. To gel them as a team takes time. Whereas we're now going to be like, have a pretty settled first 11, but it's just bringing in those kind of extra players in there. Whereas Chelsea are like ripping up their first 11 from last year, and are going to be literally like starting from square one.
And that's going to be interesting as well. Like when you start factoring in the how Lampard manages that as a squad and as like an entire dynamic. You take a guy like Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mason Mount out of the picture, who two English lads who didn't disgrace themselves by any stretch last season. They got to Champions League knockout stages. They finished 4th in the league. They got to an FA Cup final. Yeah,
there's also like Abraham, Loftus-Cheek. They had a whole load of these, and are these players going to get games now? Yeah, let's see.
And it's just with them all being young, talented English lads as well. Like there's an element to that which becomes a bit more sinister, where like the English press can maybe start to have a bit of a pick at Lampard if it doesn't start going right for them instantly, and having to integrate all of those talents in at once. He really needs a good start to be able to say, no, you see, we had it right all along.
It's unlikely they would. I mean, think if they just the attacking four, the front four, right? You're going to start Havertz, you're going to start Werner, you're going to start Ziyech. Like what you paid for them dictates that they start. So that's 3 of your starting 4 that are new, and they have to develop chemistry. They have to, like there's no preseason, so you didn't get those really a lot. I think they played like 2 matches against, whoever the hell, some random clubs probably. But like they played 2 matches. I don't know how much chemistry you can develop. Havertz wasn't even there. Like, and then they have Silva, he's definitely gonna be a starting center back. So that's there. Chilwell is gonna come in at left back, and they're gonna get a new goalie.
He's like 80 years old or something, right?
It's just, I think it's to me like, if he can just I don't know how you get off to immediately just start, everybody's on point and they're going. I think for them, like the first month and a half, 2 months will be really tricky. And if he can kind of weather that storm and just get everybody integrated, then you could really start to see the kind of fruits of the work they did in the transfer market this summer. But I agree with you, as I think if you do that much business and you add that many fresh faces, and like Mark touched upon, just the entire ego aspect of it is something that you can't. You can manage it to the best of your abilities, but there's no way to know how that plays out until you just do it. So, yes, 7. They might have 7 if they get Declan Rice too. Like where is he going to start? It's a lot.
No, I think, I wouldn't start expecting that now.
So just lastly on that as well. I had a good point. The one thing Lampard will be preying on is the fact that Pulisic, Werner and Havertz will all probably know aspects of each other's games. Mm-hmm. What we're having come over from the same league. Ziyech obviously is a bit of a wild card in the sense that he seems to be just more of an out-and-out playmaker. So it might even be that he ends up being the weak link, but that'll be what Lampard hangs his hat on, is that although they've not played together, that they're all going to have at least some knowledge of each other's games, having played in the same league.
Yeah, but they've not played in the same team, so it doesn't mean a lot to me.
No.
So I've convinced you all that we're winning the league now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, expecting it now.
Sanchez.
No, yeah, look, it's going to be a weird season anyway, right? You know, we've already had a really weird finish to the last one, and this season is not going to be like any other either. Who knows when fans are getting back in the stadium? It's like I say, and there's still another month left of the transfer window. So, like I say, I don't like to make too strong predictions until we know what our finishing squads is and what everybody else is. I think there will be quite a bit of last minute business that gets done over the next few weeks, and maybe we will see prices come down as a few clubs get desperate and a few players start pushing them ways out. So, as I say, season is starting, and in fact, it's starting in a couple of days' time. We've just got an extra week to wait, but there'll be plenty still to happen, and we'll kind of revisit predictions and all after the transfer window closes, I think. But I think that's probably about it for now this week. It's just kind of our first pre-season over there. We'll see where we're at after the Palace game and who comes on over there. So thanks for that, boys. Good night to all.
Good night, troops.
Good night.
Jesse, we're right back.